Welcome to the newest podcast coming to Nate Dogg Sports, presented by Nate Dogg Sports and created by Nate Dogg Productions. Yes, this is the newest, greatest podcast strictly talking about Saints football. And who else better could I have on this podcast than the one, the only, my brother, my twin. He knows just as much Saints football as Nate Dogg, your boy over here, does. I mean, we go to the Saints games every day. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and introduce him. He will be the co-host on this podcast with me. Introducing Nolan Lee. What's up, my brother?
How we doing?
I'm
super pumped.
Yes, sir.
I'm super pumped. This is going to be a fun one. It's been all summer long we've been preparing for this one, and I'm glad we're finally getting to do it.
Yes, who dat, brother? This is a Saints podcast. We get to show our love to our team. Obviously, we're representing out here. I got AK. You got Breeze on.
Got Drew, baby.
Yes.
Got Drew, baby. Come on.
Let's go. I love it, dude. I mean, this is like Nolan said. I mean, we've been putting this in together for a little bit, and it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be smooth, but we're going to keep growing from here. It's been a minute since we've dropped anything Nate Dogg Sports wise. We're back. We're going to come in swinging. Like I said. This is fun. I'm excited about this, and obviously for all of you out there that want to continue to watch and listen, you can find us on all podcast platforms as well as YouTube on now Nate Dogg Sports YouTube channel. It's strictly Nate Dogg Sports now. We're changing that from Nate Dogg Productions to Nate Dogg Sports to highlight all the podcasts, and as well as with those podcasts, I will be now hosting strictly the Pound Perspective, and then College Kings will be making a return. Obviously, stick around for those, but we'll be dropping this every Wednesday. Also, go find us on our social medias. Down below is going to show you right now, down below where you can find us on all social medias. We have a TikTok now. I know, crazy. We finally broke down and got TikTok, but with further ado, let's get this thing rolling, man. I mean, this is fun times, Nolan. Obviously, too early to see if we're bad or good, but it's still in that point of the season where we can dream, we can hope. Obviously, the Super Bowl is in New Orleans, man. How are we feeling, man? I mean, coming into this season, we're going to get into, obviously, a recap of next season in just a second. But, how are you feeling as a Saints fan? Nolan, obviously, last year we had some high hopes with Derek Carr coming in. Wasn't like we were expecting. Second season Derek Carr. What's those feelings feeling like, brother?
Yeah, I'm super pumped up for this year. Obviously, got a lot of bias towards the Saints. Like, it's very hard for me to predict games and predict a record and anything to do with the Saints because I just truly believe in my team every single week. I mean, ever since we were young, the Saints have always been in the running for the Super Bowl. So it's been kind of difficult these past couple years to be a team that's middle of the pack, don't really know how good your offense is going to be. You think your defense is going to be good, but as we saw last year, there were some good aspects, and then there were some that weren't so good. I think that given how good Derek played at the end of last year, and knowing that he's kind of at a tough spot in his career where his job is not necessarily guaranteed. Nobody's job is ever guaranteed, but he's kind of in a year where he's got to prove it, or you don't really know what his future holds. But I think he played really strong at the end of the year, and then with a weaker division, I think that we have a chance to, if we can just win the division, we'll have a shot at the dance. And we have a lot of vets on the team that I think are close to being done. I think Cam Jordan could be in his last year or two. Demario Davis is near the end. Taysom Hill is not getting any younger. He's in his mid-30s, and he takes a lot of hits. So, I think that we're kind of getting to that – we're getting close to that rebuild time, and I think that a lot of our players are in the – they're eyeballing the Super Bowl being at home, and I think that they're going to do everything they can to get there this year.
Yeah, man, that's just so well said. I mean, that's the reality of it. This team has been kind of put together for a long time, and there was years that obviously we know there was a couple years in there that the Saints could have got the big one, the Lombardi bringing it back home to the Big Easy, but they just couldn't get there. Obviously, certain situations with rest. We're not going to go over that, but it is something with this team that they've been so close, and now it's kind of a step back. Last year was a step back year where it was like we're an NFL team, but we're not where we were. This is not the standard the Saints had been, producing over the last, 5 years before last year. And, with Sean Payton and the transition, we kind of expected it. But, yeah, like you said, this team's getting older. We got some guys that, they're past their primes, but they can still impact the game. and how much can they? How much has this team grown from last year? Those are the big questions that we're going to be having, and it's interesting. But like you said, I mean, you couldn't have said it any better. It feels like almost a last dance for the Saints. This squad together with Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, and others when it comes to just, hey, they don't got that much time left. So very well said, man. Super Bowl is in New Orleans. Hope they can bring it down there, and maybe we can get there too and do some Bayou Breauxs content for
some in New Orleans, man. That would just be just incredible. I mean, that would be just great.
Oh man, but yep, it would be great. But obviously, it is the beginning of the season, and it is we got a long way to go. And that's what makes this season so fun. And it goes by in an instant, and it feels like just like yesterday that the season was over. And last week or this weekend we had week 0 games in college football, and it's like it's never left. So I'm excited. I know you're excited. Let's get into this, brother. Let's talk about last season. Obviously, we kind of hit a little of a recap, but let me give you all the recap. A 9-8 season last year, finishing second in the NFC South. As you can tell, we were the Saints were a good team, but they did not get all the way there. There was roadblocks along the way when it came to efficiencies on offense, as well as stepbacks on defense, if you could say. Offensively, the Saints finished 13th in the passing yards department with 28 passing touchdowns and 11 interceptions, allowing 35 sacks, which was actually 8th. And a big question with this team was always their offensive line. And when I saw 8th last year in sacks allowed, it kind of made you think about it. But obviously, the offense was predicated on fast, getting the ball out fast, didn't have the ball in his hands as much. So it didn't shock me too much, but it was also offensive line has been a problem. Looking at defense, number 9 in the passing yards department, they played really good. We had some a much better year takeovers-wise when it came to this team. And then rushing, that is where they took the biggest step back, finishing 22nd after multiple seasons of being the best rush defense in the entire league. Obviously, that 22nd is something that they want to change. Those are some of those big things. Obviously, you look at the player stats, you can keep going and going. And the biggest one for me is Alvin Kamara not even cracking 700 yards last year rushing. Those are some big things that the Saints have to change compared to last year. When you look at those stats, Nolan, and comparing to that record and finishing second, not getting the division, what can you say about the team? What were your biggest takeaways from last season and some things that obviously that you would like to see change coming into this year to kind of change the outcome, change their results in the 2024 season?
Yeah, so I look at all these stats, and rushing, like you said, rushing yards on defense was big for us. And I think we somewhat expected it because we knew the D-line was a question for us last year. But, that was where a lot of our problems lied defensively. Offensively, I mean, it was just a lot of new. I mean, Pete Carmichael was getting his second shot at it, but we've known Pete. I mean, Pete Carmichael is a brilliant mind when it comes to NFL football. He knows football. He knows how to scheme, but there's just, some guys are good at calling plays and some guys aren't. And there are some guys that are good at scheming up offenses that are creative. I mean, our offense was really good, in the early 2010s, but offense has changed so much since then. It's become a lot more dynamic, and so have the defenses too. So I knew that when we got Derek that it was going to take a second for our offense to kick into gear and for everybody to get comfortable with each other. But I just think it took longer than we expected, and it kind of just never really – I mean, there were glimpses of it, like, there was the Patriots game where we shut them out 34-0. I mean, I know it was the Patriots, but I mean, they played good in that game. The game against the Colts. Now, I know the Colts didn't have a great defense, but that was a game where the offense played really well. There were moments in the Jags game that they played well. So there were moments, but it just was a consistency thing. And so by the time the season was kind of nearing its end, that was basically when we were done. And the biggest loss we had was against the Rams, and that screwed us out of getting into the playoffs. I mean, we were on a good little run there at the end of the season. We just, we lost a couple games we shouldn't. I mean, you think about games that we could have won. The Packers game, we could have won that. We missed a field goal. I mean, Derek Carr goes down, Jameis Winston puts a game-winning drive together, and then we miss the field goal. We could have won the Texans game. We lost by a touchdown. Should have won the Jaguars game. We had a drop touchdown. We let the Vikings game get away from us. Like we said, the Rams game, just we were not playing good, consistent football. We were not playing Super Bowl caliber football. We were even playing playoff caliber football in a lot of our games last year, and that's the difference in NFL. It can go one way based on one play you made, and we let some games get away from us, and we paid the price for it last year. But I think going into this year, I think if we can just we can stay in the games like we did last year and win the games that we should, and then the close games, we win more of those than we lose, then we're going to be in a good spot. So those are my biggest takeaways, is that we were just super inconsistent. We had moments of playing good football. We just couldn't, we just lost a bunch of games on, lackluster offense, defense not being able to get a stop when they needed to, those kind of things.
Yeah, man. I mean that's the truth. Consistency was the biggest thing for the Saints team, especially offensively. Looking back, Derek Carr, obviously he did go out in some games, but didn't technically miss a start and couldn't pass for over 4,000 yards. So that's just something. It's these. I hate to just be a stat watcher, but I think the stats almost tell the entire story. When I was looking at putting these stats in, under 4,000 passing yards, completion percentage looked good. He really didn't have a lot of interceptions, but only 25 touchdowns. Wouldn't mind seeing that in the 30-ish range if you're going to be an elite offense almost. 7 yards a pass. That's not horrible, but that's also not elite. Alvin Kamara not cracking 1,000 yards. That's just. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, it felt like our whole. It felt like we were able to move the ball pretty well. We'd get close to the end zone and stall out. We did not have any other than Jimmy Graham, which we found a little later in the season. I don't know how it took us that long, but we just really struggled to get the ball in the end zone. We got close, and then we'd either have to kick a field goal when we missed the field goal, or we get close and then we get a penalty and get pushed back, and then we have to punt. So it was just like Derek was good at getting the ball, to guys short, but we just stalled out. We got to be able to put the ball to that medium range. Mm-hmm. We got to be able to just, put it between the numbers and spread out the defense a little bit, so then we can attack at the run game. We were 21st in rushing yards. So, we were not running the ball. We had almost half the amount of fumbles that we had touchdowns rushing. Jamal, the leading rusher the season before, got one touchdown. It was the end of the year, and it was a touchdown that he shouldn't have even gotten. But our team is awesome, and screw the Falcons. So,
screw the Falcons.
But it took until the last game of the season, basically the last play of the year, for Jamal to get a touchdown. I don't know. Derek had probably a lot of weight on his shoulders to make the offense go, and he needs help. He's got to put the ball down the field a little bit better, but we also need to run better for him. And I hope that our offensive line can do that for him.
No, and that's the thing, is that we come into the last season and everyone's hyped up about Derek. It's a new guy, new quarterback. It's newness. Everyone's so excited. They think he can come in here and really make an impact. And listen, he played great at the end of the year. But like you said, this is a team sport. Football is an 11-man sport, and it really makes me mad how many people, especially the Saints community, is so against Derek Carr, and I get it. Spencer Rattler, we're going to talk about him. I know that it's the shiny new toy, but it is the same exact thing as last year when Derek Carr came in. This guy comes in, you think he can be your savior, and it takes time. It takes time. He's got to build chemistry. Chris Olave and him have got to build that chemistry, and it feels like they're starting to. Alvin Kamara, feels like the offense – last year, the offense was not built around the best player, which was Alvin Kamara, which is just craziness, So you look at it, it's that,
How many times did we go to a game when we saw Alvin Kamara come off the field for third down last year? It's like, how are Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill not in your third down package? I didn't play football. I don't know scheme. I don't understand the probabilities of third and short, you call these plays, third and long, you call these plays. Just from someone that's just a fan, I can't tell you how many times we looked at each other and we're like, why is Alvin Kamara not in on this play? And the other thing about Derek too, I feel bad for him, but it's the NFL and it's professionals. But not everybody has equal situations. Derek Carr has been through so many offensive coordinators in his NFL career, and that there's an effect on that. I mean, you have to learn a new playbook every single time. Now things are similar, and I'm sure that there's a lot of concepts that are similar, but there might be a different name for it. And it's still different players, so you have to build that trust. I knew coming in to last year that things weren't going to be perfect. I don't think Derek Carr played horrible, but it's kind of similar to what happened with Jaden Daniels at LSU. And I'm a Louisiana guy, so like Jaden Daniels, his first year, he was so timid. He was so afraid of making a mistake. Derek Carr had a little bit of that in him last year. I wonder, and I'm curious, in a division that's kind of open and our schedule not being too difficult, I wonder if Derek's just going to go out there and go for it and just let it rip and just let it fall how it falls. I mean, he's a pro. He's a veteran. He's done this for a long time. And, I just hope that, he goes out there and does his thing.
Yeah, and that it's that, it's – and you said all those kind words about Pete Carmichael, but I can, also say on the other side of the Saints community, we were tired of him, and it was time to make that move. No one really believed in his scheme, and you said it perfectly. He's a great sports mind. He understands football, but there's a difference between a play caller and a play caller. I mean, there's a difference.
Yep.
And he was just not. He's not Kyle Shanahan. He's not one of those guys that Andy Reid that can. He's Sean Payton, a guy that constructs a plan. He calls plays for a certain reason, not just to get yards. He calls this play in the first quarter so he can show that same exact scheme in the third quarter and change you up. There's a difference, and that's what we've seen. And, bringing in Clint Kubiak, which we'll hit on later. I mean, that's just another element for Saints fans to be excited about, and you can see it. You've seen it in the preseason, the difference in this scheme, and you hit it on the head. When you were talking about just recapping last year is, we have got to run the ball. You got to run the ball, and last year, honestly, I think last year proved it more in the playoffs than ever that you have to have a running game. You cannot win in the NFL, especially in the playoffs, without a running game. It's impossible. It feels like we were, and I get it, NFL and football, it's innovating every single year. It's getting more elaborate. It's more pass heavy. It's more air raid. But at the end of the day, when you need 2 yards in the playoffs to cap off a game, you need a running game. And I wouldn't have trusted us to get 2 yards if we needed it with the running game last year. And it comes down to the offensive line. It comes down to scheme. It comes down to play calling. It comes down to all those things. But at the end of the day, if you can't run the ball in general, you're not going to win. And that's the biggest thing for us. You got to give Derek Carr a chance. You got to give Derek Carr a chance. He's never been in an offense where he's passing the ball 50 times every game. That his MVP season, and I know I reference it a lot, and that was a long time ago. I get it, but he was not throwing the ball around the yard 24/7 during that game. He had it was a West Coast offense that relied on the passing game or the running game to go off the play action. That's Derek Carr at his finest, with the play action game in his back pocket. He's a good play action quarterback. He can throw the ball deep. I know some people say he can't, but he's got a good arm, man. And those shot plays, running the ball, it's just these simple things that the Saints couldn't do last year. It made everything else harder. Why did we not have a red zone offense? It's because we couldn't run the ball. It's all those little things. So you hit it on the head, and it feels like I'm kind of just reiterating everything you're saying. But yeah, it really comes down to those little things that you said.
Well, I'm super excited. It's kind of I don't know. This may segue into our conversation about next season, but we're talking about the run game and how excited we are for Clint. In the second preseason game, we saw Taysom Hill at running back, and he was like popping off at least 8 yards a carry, basically. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but like Saints fans, we've been waiting for this moment for him to be lined up at tailback. Mm-hmm. And I can't even because Clint and Derek have basically they've all been saying that they aren't showing anything in preseason. I mean, they are running. I assume this is Clint's scheme, and he's running they're running the base plays from this scheme, like the plays that you have to know how to do before you can do anything special. Yeah. I mean, our center's good enough. I'm no pro, but I can imagine because they've lined up in that second preseason game, Derek Carr and shotgun with Taysom Hill next to him. I can't even imagine what they have planned for something like that, like a direct snap to Taysom, something cool happening there. I don't know what they have schemed up, but I'm excited to see. I think that Taysom is our key to the red zone, and I think that Taysom can be a key to our run game because Alvin Kamara is a guy that is better in space. He is not a run between the tackles guy. He can be if you give him the opportunities and open up that front seven. If you give him a hole, he's gone. Yep. But, just getting those gritty yards, he's not a Mark Ingram. Taysom Hill loves that kind of running. He loves running through a dude's face and getting those extra yards. So I think that's got me excited for this year. I think that will make our offense more interesting and, harder to defend.
Yeah, and I think that is actually a great segue into next season. We kind of already hit on some of those things to kind of look forward to in next season. We'll just jump into some of those changes, and then we'll hit our preseason, takeaways. Let's look at some of those changes. Nolan, obviously, we'll start with our staff changes. I'll kind of go through all of them, but obviously there's the biggest one is Clint Kubiak at offensive coordinator, bringing his talents from the 49ers as their passing game coordinator. Quarterbacks coach is now Andrew Janako. I'm sorry if I butchered some of these names. Running backs coach is now Derek Foster. Wide receivers coach is Keith Williams. Assistant wide receiver coach is Denarius McGee. Senior offensive assistant is Rick Dennison. And offensive line coach is John Benton. Now, obviously,
what do you notice there?
we cleared house. We almost cleared house.
Well, I was just say, what do you notice there with all those coaches?
That's all offense.
It's all offense.
Yep.
I mean, this is Clint's crew.
Yep.
We wanted to change, and I think that was the biggest thing for DA.
Yep.
I mean, if DA is going to keep his job, which we'll kind of talk about here soon, is, the offense has been his biggest weakness so far as a head coach. And, I mean, that's exciting. I mean, it's like last year. I'm sure there's gonna be road bumps because it's new and everyone's learning a brand new system. Some of these players for the first time learning a brand new system, but I think all of the players seem excited about it for the most part. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. It's very, it's a very offensive, just big of a difference on offense for our crew this year.
Yeah, and you ain't kidding. I'm glad that you said it too. That. And I love Saints. The Saints fans, I think, are the best fans in the entire world. But there has got to be a little bit of a grace period here. And I know we don't really have a grace period with our season being difficult at the beginning, which we'll talk about in a sec. But we got to give this team a chance, this offense a chance to grow. And, if it's not efficient week one against Carolina, as efficient as we want it to be, we cannot freak out. This is an entirely different scheme. Seems like a much more sophisticated scheme, specifically running the ball. So,
Emotions.
It's just it feels like there's more with this offense than with Pete Carmichael's offense. And it feels like for me, let's give it a chance. Just give it a chance to grow. Give them a chance to understand it week to week. They're not going to learn anything until they play that week one game. I know preseason and they've got to get those reps in, but you don't know until you hit the regular season. So let's give them a chance. I'm glad that you said that. But, yeah, man, I mean, you bring in Clint Kubiak from the 49ers. Andrew Janako, he has coached with Kubiak in the past. I think he was with the Vikings last, so he's got to be with elite quarterbacks, and still I might get clowned. But Kirk Cousins, he was having an elite season last year and the year before that, playing some good football. And guess who his quarterbacks coach was? Andrew. So this like you said, it seems like a shift. Obviously, they knew what the problems were coming into this season, and it seems like they took as many efforts as possible to fix that with this offense being so inefficient last year and struggling in the red zone. Bringing in Clint Kubiak, it's got me excited. It's just got me excited to see what kind of changes are we expecting. Are we expecting maybe even more? I mean, I remember hearing things about the wide receiver coach and some of the receivers having problems with each other last year. I hope we see some more positive stuff coming out about these coaches with the staff or the staff and the players. So, that's just some of those things with the staffs that I was thinking about. But obviously we got some more things that happened in the offseason as well as draft picks. I'm not going to go through them all, but some of those big ones that we got Fuaga from our tackle from Oregon State that has been playing some ball during the preseason. But he's a rookie. And obviously when you get a rookie, you want him to be the best player on the planet day one. But it seems like he's going to be a little bit more of a project. But it does seem like It is a bigger pick than Trevor Penning. I think we can almost agree on that to this point. At least we're coming out of camp. It's looking a little bit better.
Eric McCoy had some high praise for him, man. I could be wrong in saying he either said he was one of the best or he was the best rookie lineman that he's ever seen.
I think I did see that too. So
that's some pretty high praise, man. I know that he was at Oregon State, and I know that he's kind of a big deal there. And I'm not. If you know anything about me, I don't really keep up too much with the Pac-12, the now dead Pac-12. Had to get that jab in there, but apparently he was very good, and he's got a lot of hype coming out of Oregon State, and he seems to be the offensive lineman that seems like to be the best that was not like the first or second guy. Mm-hmm. Like everyone was like, seems like you kind of got a guy with him, so. I'm excited to see how he plays. It looks like he's going to have a chance. It looks like he's starting.
Yeah. Well, our offensive line needs anything it can get to, but yeah, it does.
Well, yeah, Ryan Ramczyk, he's probably number one.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably gone, and I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up retiring or something, because that's just such a tough break for him. And he's been the measure of consistency, the figurehead for it. I mean, he's always been available, and it sucks that you don't have him, and that's just one of the biggest question marks on this team. Loses its best offensive lineman. That's just such a big thing for us. But bringing in Fuaga, I think that is obviously the move itself it showed what we needed, but it's also seeing some of that production gets you hyped up, gets you excited. Him switching positions, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But I've only heard good things. Other players that we've heard. What's that? You got something to say?
Because he moved to. He's now left tackle, right?
Yes, because he played right in college, right? And then so we're putting Penning at guard, and
no, isn't Penning right tackle?
No, that's right.
Is he taking Ryan Ramczyk's job?
He's taking Ramczyk's. Fuaga's going left. Yep.
My guess is that they figured that Penning. I mean, they've had Penning at left tackle. So my guess is that Penning has been awful at left tackle, terrible. And that's your blind side. You gotta have that. So I figured that they wanted to try Penning at right tackle and see how he would shape up. But anyway. We'll talk about Penning later. Not a lot of good, not a lot of hope after preseason.
He got a great rating from Pro Football Focus for the Titans game, which shocked us because it felt like we were watching him all game and we were like,
he
was getting cooked, dude. He was getting cooked.
There were like 3 plays in a row we were just staring, and he got flat out bull rushed.
It's like, oh, come on, this dude's 6'7".
The quarterback was running out of the pocket immediately, dude.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I'm glad. It was wild seeing because Spencer got the highest rating from Pro Football Focus, and I think Penning was like 4th or 5th with their rating, which was crazy.
Well, if we ran the ball pretty well, and if Penning was playing during all the running, then I guess that would help him because Penning is a run blocker.
He is a run blocker.
His struggle is pass. His struggle is his pass blocking.
He's not a good pass blocker, and we know that. We've seen that too many times, it feels like. But yeah, we'll see what Fuaga can do, obviously. Then we have Kool-Aid McKinstry. We've only heard good things about in camp. A cornerback out of Alabama. Someone that I thought could have been a first-round pick. He falls to the second round, and we were able to scoop him up. Obviously, the biggest name for our rookie class is Spencer Rattler. He's been getting a lot of hype outside of the Saints organization. I mean, he's getting posted about on the NFL on Instagram and everything. So he's got some hype around him, and it's starting to turn. I saw I forget who said it, and I hate to take it from him, but when you drafted Rattler, he was an idea. And it's starting to. He's not an idea anymore. He's a prospect now, and he's someone that you can see a future with. So that's not exactly what the person said, but it was something really good, and I wish I remembered it. I also obviously don't want to take it from someone, but the hype around him is crazy, and obviously that's a topic that we're going to hit on later on. But then obviously we have some other players we drafted: Bud Means, a receiver out of Pittsburgh, Jalen Ford out of Texas, Christian Boyd out of Northern Illinois, and I'm not even going to try this last one, Josiah Ezerim. Sorry, brother. Out of Eastern Kentucky. That is actually Mississippi State's first game of the season is Eastern Kentucky this season. All right. But, yeah, man, those are some of those draft picks that we had, and we've already hit the Fuaga, and McKinstry and Rattler we're going to talk about later. But those are some of those draft picks. Obviously, our biggest free agency moves were I loved this one. Willie Gay from Kansas City, the linebacker. Saints have had two good linebackers, but didn't have the depth that it needed. It felt like they've had great depth in the past, and they just move on and they do their own thing and they've been playing some good ball, that depth that's used to be with the Saints, and moving on to other teams, and bringing in Willie Gay, a veteran that's going to start. That you got a three-headed monster in your linebacker crew now with Pete Warner, Demario Davis, and Willie Gay. I mean that's it. Well, that's one of the best trios at linebacker in the entire league, in my opinion. And then obviously the flashy but interesting guy, he could really shift this team in a crazy way, is Chase Young, is if he can come in and be Chase Young of college, not even of the NFL. I'm talking about college Chase Young. So that's obviously the fun one, 1 year, $13 million deal. And then an interesting one that we've seen a good bit of this season, I didn't even realize we signed the guy, was Cedric Wilson, receiver. He's bounced around the league a lot. He was with Miami. He was with obviously Dallas as well. So that's an interesting receiver pool for us. I feel like we're seeing him a lot on returns and everything. So obviously those are some of those big offseason moves that we had, and I think we'll just move along here and get into preseason reaction, brother. We've had our games. Yesterday we were at the game. We're recording this on Monday, y'all, and we were at the game yesterday, and obviously we didn't win, but there were some good things to take away and some other things to take away. So I'll send it to you, brother. I'll let you have the floor here. Just overall for the preseason, we've got to see some of these young guys. We've got to see the starters play as well. What are some of those big takeaways for you? What are some of the things that, coming out of the preseason that you like and you don't like?
I kind of try to talk about all the guys that you talked about, the draft picks and free agents, throughout my talk of preseason, so I can kind of say some opinions on that. The first one was Kool-Aid I wanted to talk about. I mean, you miss so much more when you're at the stadium versus when you're watching it on TV. Watching the stadium is like a whole different vibe. I don't even remember seeing Kool-Aid on the field. Did Kool-Aid play yesterday?
I'll tell you. Let me look. I don't remember.
So if he didn't, look and see if he played or not. Because and I actually have it right here, so I could have looked it up. Player stats.
I think he's still hurt, right?
Did he get hurt?
I thought he was nursing that injury.
He wasn't on the injury report yesterday.
So I guess he just didn't get snaps.
So I don't know if I should assume anything, but if you're not getting snaps in your third preseason game, I mean, he's pretty much locked up his starting job.
That's what it sounds like.
That's the way I take it.
Yeah.
That's the way I take it, at least. The only reason I say that is because, there's something about this dude. I mean, we saw it at Bama, but in that first preseason game, he was running all over the place, man. We got a guy, it feels like, with Kool-Aid. Spencer, we're definitely going to talk.
He got injured in the 49ers game. Knee injury, but it was not serious. So
Okay. So he's just nursing. I guess they wanted to rest him. But I assume, too, that they're just ready for him to play in regular season.
Yeah.
He looks like the real deal. Based on what we've seen. He's going to fly around. It looks like they're going to put him in kind of a slot position, kind of let him run around, which would be good for him. I'm excited to see that because, we got Paulson, we got Marshawn. I'm curious to see how things will shift around from there, but if injuries happen or something. But looks like we got a guy with him. And then Spencer, a lot there. He had some really good moments in that Arizona game. He had that really cool rushing touchdown, got out of the pocket, the play broke down. And then yesterday, I think the thing I was most impressive about him yesterday was just like his command of the offense. The dude looked like a pro. I know it's preseason, and you expect NFL caliber players to make some of the throws he was making, but it gets you excited because this is not just some random 5th round pick. Everyone knows Spencer's story. He was, top guy coming into college, loses his job to the eventual Heisman winner, first overall pick. Somewhat feel bad for the guy, but, he could be a guy that his best years were not in college. And he, you love the story of the guy that had to work for what he got. So I'm excited to see what he does. There were some really awesome plays from him yesterday. He just looks in such control, and his arm talent is crazy. Bub is going to be a fun guy. I think, obviously, he'll make the team. And I'm excited to see how he does. See if he can find some snaps and find some catches for us in these games, especially if we have some close games. Can he be a guy that steps up for us and gets open when we need big plays? Um, Kind of trying to get away from this list here. I mean, there were some really good moments I felt like from preseason. Looks like our starting kicker pretty much wrapped up his job, and it looks like he's gonna play group. He's gonna keep his job. He's playing good. I mean, he gets good height on the ball. I mean, it was his first year last year. I hope that he just kind of improves and just becomes a consistent kicker. So that was a fun thing to look out for. Defensive line was the thing I was most excited to see. Looks like they're going to play around with Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan's having some tough time getting to the quarterback on the end here lately. I'm sure it has to do with age and probably not getting help either. Looks like they're going to kind of play around with his role, playing interior versus playing on the outside. Because Chase Young, it looks like they're going to put him as a pure guy on the end and let him just go at it. And then Carl Granderson can be the guy that kind of helps out on the other end. So. And Bayou Breauxs is a guy too. So it looks like we have the pieces to get this run defense back in a spot that makes it so hard for offenses to compete against us because we have secondary. I mean, we have the secondary talent. If we can stop the dang run, I mean, you're going to put the ball back in Derek's hands, and then it comes down to, does the offense do its job? Does the offense execute? Which is the biggest question we're wanting to know. So there was a lot of good things. We went 1-2. It's preseason, but there were some really awesome things that happened in the preseason that gets me really excited for how things go. Now, all this to say of the Spencer hype. I mean, he did have a bad game in the preseason against San Francisco, so there's something to say there. But there's still a lot to look forward to. It was kind of cool to see him bounce back from a bad game because bad games are inevitable in the NFL. So. That was my biggest takeaway from preseason. It was kind of a little over the place, but I'm excited to see Chase Young. I'm excited to see how these receivers, because we don't really have that one. I mean, Chris Olave is obviously the one at receiver, but there's not a clear two really. I mean, Rashid is really good, but I feel like the two is kind of open. And Chris is great, and he makes some really awesome catches, but I'd love to see these guys fight for the best receiver and get in that next position. So it looks like it's obviously going to be Chris Olave because Mike's gone now. So it looks like it's Chris Olave's team to get the ball thrown to him.
Yeah, and that's you hit that on the head with some of those takes, man. And it's for me, watching this preseason from game to game to game, it feels like. It's gonna sound basic, but it feels like this team is more of a team, I guess, right now. Going into the last year, it was all hype. It was all we cared about was, is Derek gonna be good? Is how different is this offense gonna be? And now going into this season, it feels more like, how much can we grow from last season? Can we put last season in the rearview mirror? And it feels like with our draft picks, with our staffing changes, and almost mentality so far, that it does feel like we're going to be making, a change in how we approach the game. And at the end of the day, it comes down to Dennis Allen. I mean, I've said it. You said it. We've all said it. As much talent as this team has got, no matter who we're playing at quarterback, no matter who we're playing at running back, and even if Patrick Mahomes gets traded to this team tomorrow, can Dennis Allen get this team ready? And can Dennis Allen be a playoff and Super Bowl coach? And that's the biggest question that still remains. Going through this preseason, going through this offseason, it feels like Dennis Allen has done everything possible to get people excited and show that he can make the right decisions. But now it's all about what's on the field. And what I've seen on the field so far with preseason, I've liked the approach coaching-wise. I've liked how it feels like he's taken a step back. He's never really been on the offense at all, but it feels like he's taken that complete step back where this is Clint's offense and that is his defense, and he's the head coach. We get that, but it feels different. You can see it in the scheme. We talked about it earlier. They haven't shown much, but they showed us a little that we have not even seen. Like Taysom Hill at tight end, or Taysom Hill at running back, Taysom Hill at fullback. We didn't see that a lot last year. We had an entire season, multiple seasons, where Pete Carmichael could have done that, and he just never used that to his opportunity. Obviously, we saw Taysom Hill in certain other roles, but I'm so intrigued because I did see this stat that he has not taken any reps at quarterback. Taysom Hill, no reps at quarterback during camp, only at running back, fullback, tight end, and receiver. That's it. That's the only reps that he has been taking. He has not taken anything at quarterback. It seems like we're getting rid of the option, and it feels almost like we have fully embraced Derek Carr at quarterback, and we've embraced a new system. And Clint Kubiak said that to Taysom. He said, I know I'm going on a tangent on Taysom, but he was like, listen, this guy, you got to use him. I mean, this guy is one of a kind. So, but get back to the preseason, from what I've seen, and you kind of laid it out, I wanted to see how these rookies played as well as the young guys. It feels like Olave has, from what I'm seeing, is he's ready to take that next step forward as not just a player, but as a leader in this team. Last year it felt like he was in such an adjustment mode to the league as well as a new quarterback. It was just a lot of things on top of a lot of things for Chris Olave to have to overcome, and now it feels like, hey, he can just be the one. He could just be a receiver now. He's got Rashid next to him. He's got all these other guys that are competing for that number 2, like you said. But the takeaways from the games is, where does the future lie in this team for me? I loved what I saw from Spencer. I didn't mind what I saw from Haener. I liked from what I saw from a lot of the young guys. Isaiah Foskey, another defensive end guy that we might be seeing a lot more reps from. Brian Brissy, when he played, he looked great. Chase Young had some good moments, even though he's not a young guy. He got some reps during the offseason. Yesterday we didn't see any of the starters, and we saw some really good play. We saw some of those corners that are going to make the team that I would love to see them on the field every now and then. But the biggest takeaways for me for game 1, 2, and 3 is we saw a team trying to learn a new scheme offensively, and we're seeing the fruits of their labor. Packing up, fixing the defensive line was a big thing, it felt like, this offseason, and we saw a lot of that during the preseason. Hopefully they can bow up against the run and not just the pass. We saw a good bit of pass rush in the preseason, but can they stop the run? We did not run the ball at all yesterday. But obviously none of our starting running backs played, in offensive lineman-wise. It was probably some of those backups as well. But, I'm kind of going on a tangent here. But, yeah, I liked what I saw in the preseason, but I didn't see anything where it's going to make me have any more extra excitement. But as a fan, I'm excited to see the growth of this team. That's what – I wasn't at all, honestly, coming into the preseason, I really wasn't excited for much. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if the team was going to be even good. And after the preseason, I'm saying, all right, it's football. Like, this is the NFL. Anybody can win, and it feels like we have a winning team. Can they get a winning record? Can they? That's all up to the coaching. That's all up to these players and the staffing, and can they come together as a team? So, biggest takeaway for me is this team is good. How good can they be, and how good is Dennis Allen going to prepare them to get them there? So that's my biggest takeaways.
The only thing that came to mind during what you were saying was, like, everyone's big on DA leaving. Everyone's big on Derek being bad. I mean, not everybody, just the people on Twitter that, have followers.
Facebook.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, like, Derek probably had one of his down seasons. But there were a lot of things working against him. Offensive line wasn't playing good. We couldn't run the ball. And the biggest thing for me is like with Dennis Allen, I mean, we went 7-10 his first year as head coach, and we won 2 more games last year. And arguably we could have won. I mean, I just think back to that Packers game. There was nothing more that Dennis Allen could have done in that game. All we had to do was kick that field goal, and we would have made it as the 7th seed simply by making that field goal. We make the playoffs last year over the Packers, and that's all it came down to. I mean, obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but you can simply say that. But I mean, I feel like you really can. I mean, the 7th team we had a chance to beat them.
We should have. We were up in
on
half.
one kick.
Yeah.
And we were up by 17. So I don't know. Hopefully with Dennis Allen, and we'll talk about this here in a second. I hope that if we have some struggles to start the year, they are not, and not everybody's trying to jump all overboard.
Yep.
This is a marathon. We have a tough start to the year, but things even out after the first 5 weeks. If we can just survive that storm and we keep DA, I think with DA, you need to just shoot for 10 games. 10 wins. If you can win 10 games, obviously you got to keep him. If we make the playoffs, you got to keep him. I would love to see this team, like last year, win 2 more games than they did the year before. You win 11 games, I think that'd be awesome. I think that'd probably be enough to win the division. So that's all I wanted to say, kind of piggyback off what you were saying there.
No, yeah, and it is, man. I mean, it's the hate that two guys can get after excitement last year. So funny. This league changes so fast. Derek was welcomed with open arms last year, and now he's hated by a good portion of by the fan base. But I mean, it's also the people that have too much time on their hands and too much hate in their heart. They don't have any passion. They don't have any understanding of what it takes. It's not just Derek out there.
Well, if you win, it solves all the problems.
Yep.
We just weren't winning games last year. Nope. We weren't winning games at a consistent rate. And based on the way that I've predicted the season to go, I'm nervous that there's going to be a lot of that still being. So coming around the corners of how people think about this team. But, it is what it is.
We shall see. Let's keep this thing rolling, brother. Let's get into some fun topics, honestly, before we get into our prediction that's happening at the end of this podcast. We're getting close to the end of this podcast, y'all, but let's look at the division. This is obviously a big question mark. When we were talking about the podcast, we were putting up the script beforehand. It was before the Falcons made some interesting moves this offseason. As of late, the Falcons did land Matthew Judon from the Patriots. A great move, a move that they needed. They needed a pass rusher desperately, and they got one with Matthew Judon, and then as well as signing Justin Simmons, a guy that, in my opinion, should have never been able to walk out of the Saints building without a contract. He was in the Saints building, and we let him walk away. That is something that the Saints needed, was a safety, and the Falcons go up and scoop him up, a position they needed as well. So when we put this on, I was very excited to talk about this, but now the Falcons making some interesting moves, obviously bringing in Kirk Cousins as well this offseason. Preseason. Going into the regular season, this division expectation, I was looking, man, it's an interesting division because, well, you look at it. You got the Falcons. They're the favorites to win the division this year. And deservingly so. They probably deserve it with all the moves they made, bringing in a top 10 quarterback in Kirk Cousins, and obviously they didn't. Not a lot of people love their draft pick, but with Michael Penix, I don't mind it. But obviously looking at these teams, Nolan, in the division, overall we see the Bucs won it last year. Baker Mayfield coming back. Panthers getting another year with Bryce Young, new coach over there in Carolina, also in Tampa. What are you thinking here, Nolan? What are your expectations overall for this division? Last year, one of the worst. Do you expect them to still be one of the worst divisions? Do you think they'll be in the middle of the pack, maybe even better?
Sorry for all the coughing, y'all. Kind of a little sick over here, but so I'm just kind of looking at it from a game-by-game perspective. We start the year off pretty tough, and then we play the Falcons week 4. Those first 3 weeks of the year, we play Carolina, but they played the Steelers week 1. So arguably, you're in a situation where there's us and the Falcons will be playing potentially. You don't really know how it's going to work out, but potentially 2 teams that are going to end up 4th in their division. At least from early projections of the season. So there's that, but then the next 2 weeks, the Falcons play the Eagles, and then they play the Chiefs, and then they play us. And so our situation is that we play the Carolina Panthers, then we play the Cowboys, then we play the Eagles. So both of us are playing 2 really tough teams before we play each other. I mean, both of us could potentially go into the game against each other 0-3 or 1-2. So I don't really know what to think of our division. Is it going to be someone that runs away with it? I mean, that's the thing I'm most nervous of. Is that what if Panthers or the Bucs or somebody or us just kind of run away with it this year? It's been so tight the past few seasons. There hasn't been an outright winner, you know, with like 5 weeks to spare, and I can't remember how long. So, are the Falcons ready to make that move? Personally, I think that the Falcons are going to be in a similar situation like we were last year with Kirk coming in. Kirk's a great quarterback, but I mean, he has a few more playoff appearances than Derek. You probably argue that he's a better quarterback than Derek based on stats and everything, but you know, it's a new system for Kirk, and he's coming off of a really devastating injury. You know, a lot of people are sold on the Falcons. I'm not 100% sold. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that they'll be better than they were last year. I'm sure that they'll use more of the players, the more skilled players than they did last year. But we'll see about the Falcons. I mean, I'm sure that they are the favorites. And then the Bucks. I mean, it kind of comes down to Baker. I mean, they paid him. He deserved his money. But I mean, they still went 9-8 last year. It's not like they were world beaters or nothing. So. Yeah, but they got a good win against a Philly team that probably most of the NFL would have beat in that first game. Yeah. But, you know, there's something about a confidence to a team. And that Eagles team there was this complete lack of confidence that they were going to beat anybody at that point in the year. They just were, I mean, they struggled. So anyway, kind of going off on my little tangent too here, but and then the Panthers. I mean, I don't really know what to expect from the Panthers. They have a young new coach. Bryce Young is, you know, figuring out his way. Is Bryce Young going to be able to do it? Is he not? He's so dang short. But you know,
small,
we
bro.
know that there's a.
He's small.
We know that there are some short quarterbacks out there that can play well. But I mean, you really think about it. There's really only one that's been really amazing.
Elite.
I mean, Russ played good, but Russ, you know. I mean, I think Russ is exposed. Yeah. I mean, Russ has exposed himself to, you know, what he really truly is. I think that there's a lot more credit that those Seattle teams deserve after the fact.
Team-wise, yeah.
Now, you know, after everything's settled, it looks like, oh, those teams were just really, really built well, and that the quarterback didn't really have to be, you know, the best player on the field. Mm-hmm. You know, Drew really was consistent for a really long, basically from 2006 to when he retired. I mean, he was just probably the best, if not top 3 quarterback in the league every single season. So it's hard when you're that undersized at that position. You got a lot of dudes that are really fast at 270 pounds, and so I don't know how to feel about the Panthers. I feel like that they have a lot going against them. But we'll see. I still think that this division is going to be one of the probably be the 4th seed again. I wouldn't be surprised if the team that wins it is a 9-8 or a 10-7 team. So that's kind of what I've been saying. Like, get to 10 wins, you probably win the division. Get to 10 wins, you probably get the 7th seed wild card. So if that could be our goal this year, break double digits on wins, I think that we'll be in a good spot to make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's and I was looking over here at Tampa's first 4 games. They start with the Commanders, and then they get the Lions, Broncos, and the Eagles. So, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, they got 2 tough games in their first 4 games as well. So, when it comes to this division, I don't believe that it will be as bad. Not because of records. I think the records will probably be pretty similar, honestly. From last season, 9-8, 10-7, 7-8. I mean 7-10. I don't think any team's gonna be Carolina bad this year. Maybe Carolina again, 2-15. That's just crazy. But yeah,
2-15 is wild.
That is so tough, bro. I couldn't imagine a season like that. But you know, I think the team that makes the biggest step forward is gonna be Atlanta. Even though I hate Atlanta, we'll never root for Atlanta. Just a football analysis, objective look. You know, they brought in the most talent overall this offseason. It's hard to not say that they won't look much better this year. I really love their coaching hire. You know, I do think he's a great coach. He's coached before. He just didn't work out as a head coach the first time. But, you know, getting his second chance here, you know, he had one of the best defenses in the league when he was a defensive coordinator. And now going into a team that needed defensive help. Offensively, you got Kirk Cousins. You got talent on the outside. Does the new offensive staff change what they? I mean, good guys. They better. Kyle Pitts. I hope he's actually in the scheme. You know, I hope that I hope not. Actually, I hope not that he's not. But as just a football fan, you want to see the talent be used how it's supposed to be used. So I'm interested to see what the Falcons are, because everyone's saying the Falcons, they're going to be a good team. And it's just like, there's a lot of newness for them too, There's a lot of newness for that team. I mean, new coach, new quarterback, new players, new staff. It's not that this team's coming in here with a bunch of players that have been together for a long time. It's going to take some time for them to gel as well. So when it comes to this division, I think it's going to be a better division, but I do believe this division might take itself out a little bit. I do think that Atlanta's going to beat the Saints once. I think the Saints are going to beat Atlanta once. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucs beat either or those teams once. It does feel like it's going to be kind of another dogfight in my opinion. But like you said, I believe 10 wins is probably enough. I think if you get to 10 wins, you're going to be in conversation at least. You might not win the division, but it's going to come down to those 11, 10, 9-game winning season to win this division. So expectations-wise, I don't see it being too much different, but I think it's going to be a better division than last year. Last year it was like whoever makes it of these teams is not good. They're not going to do much in the playoffs, even though, like you said, the Bucs won against the Eagles, but I think the Saints probably could have beat that Eagles team last year.
I don't know, bro. The year before last was, I think, the year before last was worse. The year that Tom Brady made it, but they were like 8-9 or something.
Oh gosh, yes, that's right. Oh yeah.
So I think that all the teams improved last year, and like you said, I think that everyone's going to improve again this year.
Yeah. Even though the records say that, even if the records are pretty similar, like 10-7, 9-8, 9-8, it might be just like that. But I think the teams are going to be better. I don't think people are going to be like, oh, this is a horrible division, still one of the worst in the league. I think the teams are just going to be close, and
I think it'll be closer, a little more similar to what the AFC South was last year.
Yeah,
it was kind of tight. Houston kind of ran away with it, but they were,
came down to the last game of the season.
Yeah, exactly. The Titans were out of it, but the Jags were in it. Indy was in it, so kind of different from a QB perspective. But I feel like it's going to be like you kind of respect these teams a little bit.
Yep. I agree. But that's pretty much all I have with expectations. Let's get through these last two fun topics that we have here. These will be pretty quick. Big debate during the preseason. And it was a quarterback battle for QB2. Rattler versus Haener. We've seen him play for 3 games, Nolan. Last game yesterday was pretty much the icing on the cake. We got to see them strictly in big moments. They gave both of them opportunities to shine. And after yesterday's game, I feel like people had their opinion, but this is your opportunity, Nolan. What was your thoughts on the QB battle, and who do you think won QB2?
Yeah, I don't really feel like I have to go too far into depth into this one. I mean, going into the season, I was looking forward to seeing Jake Haener's progress, but there's just something about Spencer, man. Just flies out of his hand. I was telling Joe about it earlier today at work that, some people just got it, and some people really have to work for it. And I feel like Jake's one of those guys that, maybe he'll get his opportunity, but he's going to have to work his tail off to get it. I mean, he's really like – Spencer's got so many good things going for him. That dude just has so much arm talent, man. That dude, there was a point where he was just backing up and he just fired it at this stop route yesterday. That ball he had in the end zone. Somebody on Twitter said that Derek Carr couldn't make that throw. I'm like, dude, Derek Carr can make that throw. Yeah. But it was still a dot.
It was a beautiful pass.
Like when he dropped that in there, it was like, bro, that's like, I don't think Drew Brees could have put it in a better spot than he did. I mean, it was absolutely a perfect throw into the end zone. It was like a 21-yard pass. Yeah. It was just money. Spencer looks confident. Spencer looks ready for the moment. Derek better stay on that field, man, because Spencer's a guy that, if he gets a shot, he may not give it up, dude.
Yeah.
So I think Rattler's number 2. I mean, I don't know how you could not make him number 2 after yesterday.
Yeah, I agree, and honestly agree with your point where, if Derek goes down, man, I'm not like some of the Saints fans are like, put him in now. It's just like, oh my gosh, what are we trying to do? Spencer Rattler has faced that his entire career getting started too early. Let this guy develop for the love of God. Let this guy have a chance to watch.
Just let him just Chill for a sec.
Watch Derek how he operates during actual big moments. You know, I get it. Preseason, he had a big chance in the second half or during the game yesterday. During some big moments during the preseason, but it's like, my gosh, this guy has been thrusted in the limelight his entire career. Let's give him one chance to take a step back. He's went through crazy. You talked about it earlier. He's had a crazy career where he's the number one guy, and he was on that television show where people got to see his attitude and rumors. I don't know if it's real or rumors, but that it was apparently off-putting how he acted during that show for a bunch of recruits and NFL coaches. He's not humble, and that's something he's talked about openly. Like, he had to change his perspective on how to play this game. Getting benched by Caleb Williams, having to leave there, having to go to South Carolina to get an opportunity. Not everyone was knocking out his door. Like it was in high school. So it feels like he had to mature earlier than some quarterbacks in college, and I feel like that helped him a lot. I think that is honestly, why we're seeing him play at really high level in moments of preseason this early, is because he had to take a second and say, all right, I'm not as good as I actually – like, I've got a lot of talent, but I've got a lot to learn. And I couldn't think of a better offense to put him in than the Kyle Shanahan tree, of offenses. This is the new age of offense. Why not learn immediately how to operate it, to the highest level? So, but yeah, yesterday was the icing on the cake, like I said. I mean, it was clear cut. Haener had his opportunity late, and it would have been fun to see Haener go down the field and put together a game-winning drive. And then this conversation would have been really fun. Who do you put at QB2 then? Because you had Spencer have the better game, but Haener goes out there and dots up the defense for a game-winning drive. That would have been a fun conversation, but. I like Haener, and we saw good things from Haener, but, Spencer's going to be the QB2. But the biggest takeaway for me is that we've got a pretty dang good quarterback room. I don't care what anyone says. I am comfortable with this quarterback room, no matter who's coming in. Injury-wise, I'm confident that the guy, whoever is playing on Sunday, will be prepared. So hopefully it's Derek. Obviously, the other two guys, it feels like they are ready to step in at a moment's notice, though. So that is my takeaway. QB2, Spencer Rattler, but I love what I'm seeing from this quarterback room. All right, quick topic here, and then we'll get into our season look-ahead and prediction. Dennis Allen, big conversation over the offseason. Hot seat or not, people think he is. Some people, I don't know, honestly, anyone that would say he's not on a hot seat. Some people just may not think he's on the hottest seat, I guess. Nolan, your quick thoughts on this. Obviously, the fan base is tired of him. They wanted him gone this offseason. They give him another chance. He brings in Clint Kubiak. Obviously shows he's got some understanding of what this team needed. What's your thoughts on this narrative that Dennis Allen is on the hot seat or possibly the hottest seat in the entire NFL?
This first 5 weeks is going to be fun to watch. I mean, there genuinely is a situation where we could be like 1-4 or 1-5. If we're in that position, that conversation is going to get hot.
Yeah.
Very hot. For Dennis Allen's job, he really needs to win. By the time we get to that Broncos game, what's that? Week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3-3, bro. 2 and 4 would be like
crushing it. You put yourself in such a bad spot then. You're so behind then,
Yep. I think that first 5 weeks is going to be a complete showing of what is the rest of our season. If we can be 4-2, bro, dude, the rest of the season is nice. But I think it comes down to we make the playoffs. If we make the playoffs, I think we keep him. The worst situation we could be in is like this year, where we just barely miss the playoffs.
And the team improves or something, yeah.
The worst situation would be if we went 10-7 and still missed the playoffs. That would be like the worst scenario. Because it's like, okay, we still won an extra game than we did last year, but we still didn't do enough to make the playoffs. And when you go 10-7, it means you played better than you played worse, but not by a lot. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very black and white. If we make the playoffs, he stays. If we don't, I think he's gone. I think the worst situation for us to be in is if we're like 1-5 going into the Broncos game. And then, if we lose to the Broncos at home to Sean, that might just be like, all right, we're done. So,
yeah.
Coach, Dennis Allen better be ready to go week 1 and they better beat that Panthers team, because if you don't beat the Panthers, it only gets harder from there for those next 4 weeks, man. It only gets harder.
Yep.
So.
Yep, and that's as logical of a take as it gets, you know. I mean, we've given this guy a chance. Missing the playoffs is not a thing the Saints do. Well, the Saints do anymore, you know. I mean, obviously they had some rough years in there back in the day, but you know, that's of the modern era when it comes to the Saints. This team is supposed to be consistently a good team, and that's not what they've been. That's the last thing they've been, is consistent. So, can Dennis Allen change that narrative about him? Can Dennis Allen change the narrative about this squad? And, you know, does he incite confidence and excitement into the team and to the fan base? That's the biggest thing. Because right now, even though if the team might be excited, this fan base is not excited about Dennis Allen. Can Dennis Allen get this fan base excited about? He got booed yesterday when he was announced. You know? That's where we're at with this fan base with Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen has zero faith. The fan base has zero faith in Dennis Allen as a whole. Can he change that narrative? Can he come in and, you know, like you said, 3-3, you lose a close game to the Chiefs. Hey, I'm taking that. You know, I'm taking that, you know.
Well, dude, I mean, like, the best way to win over this fan base is if you go out and beat the Panthers, and then you can go to Jerry's World, beat the Cowboys. Week 3 back at home against the Eagles, I guarantee that Superdome will be rocking for Week 3.
Yep, and that's exactly right. You win those 2 games, you get off to the season with a good start. Because last year the biggest thing was, we won our first game, right? And then we lost to the Panthers because we lost all of our players, right? Wasn't that? Oh, no, that was 2 years ago.
No, we won Week 2 last year to the Panthers.
Right. That's right. That's right.
We just started. Our offense was just like, well, we won, but our offense is really horrible. That was the whole vibe to start the year last year.
We won 16-15, and then we won 20-17.
I don't think that we can beat the Cowboys without some type of legitimate offensive play. We could probably beat the Panthers with, you know, bad play, but I don't think we beat the Cowboys playing bad.
I agree.
So if we can win those first 2 games, we get back home for the Eagles, man, that Superdome be rocking, dude.
Rocking.
That Superdome be ready for that game, because if we have a chance to start the season off 3-0 before we go to Atlanta, dude, whole team will be behind them. Whole city will be behind them.
Yep.
So I think if they can just take this thing seriously take this thing one game at a time from the very beginning, don't worry about the Cowboys. You want to make that Cowboys game mean a lot more and be way too much for some of these young guys, lose to the Panthers. And then you're going to be in a really bad situation. Beat the Panthers Week 1, and then, you know what? If you win or lose to the Cowboys, it is what it is. But if you go beat the Cowboys Week 2, woo, they're going to be so ready to go for Week 3.
Yep.
Those boys are going to be so ready to go for Week 3 against the Eagles. So, you know, like all the cliches, don't look too far ahead. But, you know, that first 5 weeks it's a gauntlet, man. You got to kind of look at that and say, like, we got to survive that first 5 weeks. How do we do that? I think you take it one game at a time. Beat the Panthers. See how you do against the Cowboys, then come back home and you know, go from there.
Yep. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. It's literally it. You know, go out there and win. You got to change the confidence in this fan base and overall for this team, man. That's where I'm sitting. Obviously, if you miss the playoffs, he's going to get fired. But if you just change how this fan base and this team feels, you're going to keep your job. You know, and if you're doing that, you're winning. So that's how I feel about it. So
me too.
That'll wrap us up there. Let's end this podcast, Nolan, with our schedule look ahead. We'll give a little bit of a understanding to some of y'all out there. The Saints are technically tied with the Falcons for having the easiest schedule in the entire league at 32. Last season's opponents' records combined for 131 and 158. That is a 45%, around 45% winning percentage. Obviously, this last season, all these teams are different. You never know. That it's a new season, but that is our best way to kind of look at, obviously, what kind of schedule we got here. And according to that, it's one of the easiest. Obviously, all we talked about is how hard our schedule is to start the season. We have not talked about much after that because it gets rather easy. But you never know. the first 5 weeks may be the easiest part of our schedule. You never freaking know. That's the beauty of the
Yep.
NFL. So that's just to kind of lay out the groundwork here. Let's go right into it, Nolan. Obviously, we hate picking against our team, but let's look at it realistically. I'll start us off here, and I'll let you kind of go off of what I got here. Prediction-wise, I've already made a prediction earlier this year, and I was like, well, am I going to change it? I did it for my job, and I was like, am I going to change it? And I was like, of course not. I can't. That was my gut feeling, and I'm going to stick with it. My official prediction is 10-7, but I also have some others in here. I think the worst that we go is 7-10. I don't think we are any worse than 7-10. I just would be shocked if we are any worse than that. Just strictly because of our defense. They're going to keep us in games. It's about if this offense will be good and we can stay healthy. A realistic way to look at it is probably 9-8, but I'm confident we're going to steal one of these games we're not supposed to win. It just feels like that Dallas game we've talked about. I feel like we can steal that one. There's other games in there. Maybe we could steal a Chargers. We could. That's a fun one. The Rams. That's not gonna be an easy one. We could steal it. Packers. That's not an easy one, but you never know. Go into Lambeau in December and win that game. That's hard, but that'd be a major win. Possibly freaking snowing 2 days before Christmas. That's something that I expect. I think they're gonna steal one of those games that they're not supposed to win. And that's going to get them to that 10-7 mark. But that's my prediction, 10-7. No worse than 7-10. We could see 9-8, but I'm going 10-7.
Yeah, it's pretty much where I'm at too. I'm in that 10-7, 9-8 range right now for this team. I would kind of did on my gut reaction to it, just like don't think about it, just pick the games, and I landed at 10-7. The only problem that I have is that it's just a big back and forth battle the whole time. Yes. But you know what? If we stay at 500 until the last 5 weeks of the season, we get Giants, Commanders, Packers, Raiders, and the Bucks. I mean, I see 3 wins there. You know what I mean? Like I see some winnable games there. The game before that is the Rams. Who knows how the Rams are going to play this year? Yep. So the last 6 games of the year, we kind of have a good shot to, if we just stay at 500, we could win out those last few games, and we could win the division. I think that the peak would be 11-6 because, like you said, there's some really winnable games here. I mean, I think that we win against the Panthers, obviously. I think that we beat either the Cowboys or the Eagles. I mean, like, I don't know if I'm confidently saying that, but I feel like those are both winnable games. We should split between the Falcons. That's my gut reaction. But who's saying we can't sweep them? The Chiefs game would be a crazy game to steal. It's Monday night, so there's gonna be a lot of good feelings there. Depending on what our record is at that point, I mean,
it's gonna be a big game.
We'll see. Like you said, the Chargers could be a cool game to get, depending on how the Browns play. Browns are kind of a wild card. Don't really know how they're going to play, so that could be a win. And then, like you said, that Packers game Monday night in Lambeau could be snowing, could have huge playoff implications depending on how the Packers are doing. I mean, that could seriously be a wild card spot game.
Yeah, exactly.
Between the two of us. Or even a division. Win the division. It could be a seeding game. So that could be a deciding factor between the 3rd and 4th seed. So there's a lot to look forward to. I think that 11-6 would be my highest prediction, and like you said, I think that 7-10 is probably the most likely worst case scenario because I think that there's easily 7 wins on here.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the Broncos game is kind of hard to just say we're going to just flat out win, but I think we should win that game.
Broncos are such a different team. You just don't know if they're going to be great, bad, good. It's like
there's going to be a lot more energy and juice behind that just because Sean's coming back to the Dome. But that feels like that should be a win. Two Panthers games feels like those should be wins. The Giants and the Commanders and the Raiders all feel like wins. So there you go. You got about 6 games there, and I'm sure we pick up another win against a division rival at some point there. So 7 wins feels likely for us to at least get to. So if we don't kill ourselves at the beginning of the season, for lack of a better way of saying it, I think we'll have a good shot of wrapping up pretty strong at the end of the season.
Yeah, bro. I agree. You know, good look out there at the end of the year. You know, this is it's beautiful though. Let's just take a moment, Nolan, and just appreciate. In 2 weeks, we'll be in the Dome for Game 1 against the Carolina Panthers. Man, it's beautiful to have this sport back, man. Golly, watching college football this weekend and going to the Dome, it was something special, man.
Watching Florida State, Georgia Tech, I was like, this is like an actual football game. I was like, this is like for a real football game. And they go into Superdome yesterday, man, when Puka's brother,
oh my gosh,
Puka Nakua's brother, ran it 106 yards, man. I was screaming like it was a regular season game, man. Like I turned around after that play and I was like, dude, that felt like a real play, man. Like that felt like I missed something.
The Dome reacted.
The Dome got so loud, dude. So
it was a regular season moment right there.
Like the fans are excited. I think the fans are rooting for this team. They're gonna give these guys one more chance, and I think the best way to do is go win a few games to start the year. Go win a couple of tough games. I like that we start our season tough because we'll get to find out how good this team is quickly.
Fair. I agree. Get some of those tough games out early too. Beat the Cowboys. I love playing Cowboys week 2. Give it to us early. Let's go out there and kind of shock some people. But yeah, bro, I'm excited. I know you are. I know the entire world is excited for some football. The best sport in the world is back. I'm happy that we can do this podcast together as well. I think that'll wrap us up here. Everyone that's watched and listened, these podcasts will not be this long usually, but it was the first one. We had a lot to talk about as the season goes along. We'll just be recapping the week before and obviously any news that comes out about the Saints, and then obviously our prediction, or mainly just to look ahead into the season. Well, it's hard to pick against these Saints. It's hard. But obviously we will be back next week. We'll be dropping every Wednesday for anyone that wants to kind of keep an eye out. They'll be dropping every Wednesday. So keep an eye out for all these podcasts. Like I said, you can find us on all podcast platforms if you listen. And if you want to watch, we are on YouTube, Nate Dogg Sports YouTube channel. It is all up and running. We'll be posting on there. And as well, follow us on our social medias as well. We have just strictly social medias for our podcast now. So go out there, follow. That's where you can find all of our fun little extra content out here. But, yep, I think that'll do it for us over here with Bayou Breauxs. Nolan, thank you once again. It's been a fun first episode, and can't wait for the next one, bro.
Yeah, me too, bro. It's going to be a fun year.
Hell yeah. Who dat? We'll be back next week. Y'all have been watching.
Who dat?
Yes. Who dat? Y'all have been watching Bayou Breauxs. Peace.